Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for tuning into the webinar today. So we'll just give it a few minutes for people to join in. Okay, brilliant. I can see we've got a few people joining in now, which is great. Okay, I think let's get started, Barbara. So welcome to the webinar, everyone.
Yeah.
My name is Tommy. I'm the solutions architect here at Boom. So my role is focused in on working with our customers to design, implement solutions across all of the hubs in HubSpot, whether that be marketing, sales, service, and operations. So day to day, this could include working with data, integrations, whether that be native or custom, and then also CRM migrations as well. So today we're going to be talking a bit about data cleansing inside of HubSpot. And we're also joined by Barbara from HubSpot. I'll let Barbara introduce herself.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Barbara. I'm a technical consultant here at HubSpot, and I've been working with HubSpot for over 6.5 years now. Normally customers end up with me when it comes to any technical situation, question, project that customers may work with in combination with HubSpot. So I'm the go-to person if they're stuck somewhere where customer support cannot help anymore. So yeah. So
Thanks, Barbara.
nice.
Nice. So just to give you a quick overview of the agenda today, we're going to be walking through some live demonstrations of data cleaning methods inside of HubSpot before going into how to create your own data cleansing checklist, which is going to be really valuable there. Just one point to mention as well. So we'll be covering questions at the end of this webinar today. So if you have any questions as we go through this, feel free to pop them in the chat below and we'll come and answer them at the end. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Barbara, just to walk through the first live demo.
Cool. So I'm going to talk about consistent, how to keep your data clean consistently in HubSpot by using certain tools that are available. I'm going to actually demo them. Just have to get out of this. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is actually, I hope everybody can see my HubSpot portal.
Yes, that's fine.
Perfect. Cool. Thanks. I just needed the confirmation. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is actually we have like 3 options that you can use in your workflows that can be helpful to maintain your data clean. Especially if you know already that certain elements in your data can be like not like organized, or because of due to different CRM merges or migrations, it can happen that your data is just a little bit messed up and you just want to have like something that runs in the background. So it like keeps the data clean and tidy. There can be like different options that could be like not like it can create a mess, especially phone numbers, because of some restrictions in forms, or like the way like how you use HubSpot in combination with your own forms. It can happen that the data is just like a little bit untidy in the sense of when it comes to country codes, especially. So there's like multiple options that how you can fix that. And I'm going to present to you like all 3 options. So one of the option is actually by adding an action that we call format data. By formatting the data, you actually you decide which property you want to adjust. In this case, I would pick like, for example, the phone number, and then you decide what actually you want to make changes on. We give you already like a set of information that you can already like change. For example, you can capitalize first letters, you can change the date format, For example, especially if you have like a mix between US date format or UK date format or EU date format, like, you know, backslash versus the dot, you can make changes to the timestamp, divide the number. There are like a list of small things that you can remove HTML tags, especially if you have them in specific descriptions. You can add round numbers, so you can do like different like small actions that automatically HubSpot gives you the opportunity to do. Afterwards, what it does is literally it will do the action that you picked, and then it will like copy paste the cleansed data back into the property. So this is like when you want to go like the easy route. A bit more complicated route is if you activate in format data, is if you use the custom mode, where you literally create a formula that allows you to do specific actions. In this case, for example, I'm adding the 49 to my phone number because I want to make all my German phone numbers to have like the right country code. In this case, because like in some instances, the number is just missing. So in this case, I'm using a formula that actually concats the option. You have other options, and normally we give you here, you can search for it, but you can see you can cut, you can divide, you can join. So you can do a lot of like small syntax action already in here. As well as you have the option to add properties that are available. Be aware that, for example, if you want to add something on a contact workflow, it will always refer back to contact properties at the moment. So yeah, so and then you can like follow up the actions here. So, but that's like these are like the two more easier ways. The third option, which is like the more complex one, is working with custom coded action. There you have the possibilities to run extra scripts that do specific actions with your data, especially, for example, if you want to have like it generate like, for example, a specific coupon code where you say like, oh, I want to pull in data from my other database into it and want to set it into a property, and then I want this property to be, I don't know, mixed with another property, etc. So you can literally code anything with it. Then just be aware that if you do API calls, that you don't forget to either choose the OAuth method or to use your private app and use the access token, because you still have to go through that process, even if you use it through the workflow. So yeah, so these are like the most common ways to be able to clean your data in HubSpot. And there is a new one that's actually in beta, which is the anomaly monitoring on properties. So that's actually a pretty cool thing that I'm going to show like quickly, which you can later on find in your data management tool, and you find it then under data quality. Since when you have the beta activated, you will then get started, but in my case, I already did it. So what I did is like literally you say you want to monitor certain properties where you know that maybe something can happen, like data being unclean, duplicated, etc. And this means you can actually monitor them, and then this way you can actually manage them. And see that that you can have consistent data, and also nobody messes up with your data, and that makes it so much easier. So let me show. So the next topic that I'm going to talk about is enforcing validation rules using like specific logic for property editing. So there is different ways where you can like restrict users in HubSpot to make properties, like give them certain rules. You can edit the access, who can actually change anything on the property, can view the property, like be able even to see it on the contact record, company record, D record, etc. And you have actually a new beta coming out that's like conditional property logic. So I'm going to show you a little bit on how that works. So the first thing that I normally suggest all of my customers is like define some rules if you want them, especially when it comes to where you know you want to have unique values, especially when it comes to IDs or like, for example, in my portal, it's like the author name. Like if you have like certain elements where you want to make them unique, especially when you want to identify something, you can mark that, and then the system automatically makes sure that it's a unique value. You can set the minimum of character limits. You can set the max of character limits, which can be really interesting for description properties, or like multi-line text properties. Yeah, you can restrict if it's like a numeric value, and you can say like don't allow special characters. For example, you don't want that there is an @ hashtag, etc. That can like help you monitor your properties. So this is like how you enforce rules. No, Zoom doesn't like me. Okay, so then you have another option, which I mentioned, the property access, in the sense that you can say, okay, I don't want to give the sales team access to make any changes to my marketing properties, for example. And you have an option, like you have two ways to do that. You can say here, for example, I want to give like assign user to a team. Or you can go into the property itself and you can assign user team here. When you do that, you have like options to say like, okay, private to super admins only. So only me that created the property, or the because like I'm a super admin, so I'm the super admin, can do that. I can also say allow everyone to view it, but if you say they can only view it, you cannot edit it. And you can specify, like, for example, also specific teams. And then you can say, like, for example, view only, or I can say no access, or I can say view and edit access. So you can actually determine who can manage what property. So then the other option would be, that's like something more precise, is if you like in the contact record, you have like an option for the objects contacts. You go under record customization, you have like the left sidebar, and you can say like, hey, I want to make sure that my view is like specific in the sense per team. So you can create your team specific views, but there's a new option that allows you actually to create a logic in it. So you can actually dictate, for example, if in this case, I put in here, if membership confirmed, which is a property, has a certain value, then I'm showing this whole section. Meaning like if a contact doesn't have this property available, this section will not show up for them. Meaning like, for example, this way you can actually restrict and like also like add properties in the contact view to make it available only for the people that needs to see it at the right time. And the last thing that I wanted to show you is the new logic that you can add. Is like, this is like when you work on the contact form, meaning when you manually create a contact. So you have the option now to actually add a logic to it, where you can say like, oh, if a certain property has a certain value, then I want, like, for example, in this case, I put there that when the legal basis is freely given consent, I want them to have subscription date added. And then like the subscription date shows up. You can add multiple more. And then I said like it makes it required, meaning unless the legal basis is something else, it will not show up and the field is not required. Okay. These kind of like small things allow you to manage your CRM system in a way that you have like clean data, but also it helps you manage how you want to go around with your data, especially when it comes to creating properties. So now I'm handing it over back to Tommy.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Barbara. I'll quickly just share my screen and we can go through the duplicate management tool inside of HubSpot. So when it comes to HubSpot, there are some areas whereby there is automatic deduplication inside the system. So HubSpot uses email as a unique identifier for contacts. So you can never have more than one contact record with the same email address. And for companies, it will use company domain name as a unique identifier. However, often there are cases whereby people have either submitted forms with personal email address and a work email address, or potentially someone switched companies, which then creates duplicates inside of the system. So the duplicate management tool can be really useful for being able to monitor those duplicates and merge them together. So when you're inside your portal, you can go into actions on the main contact screen, click on manage duplicates, and on this main dashboard here, it's going to give you a breakdown of all of your contact duplicates. And you can also toggle between any duplicate companies as well. So what's important about this is firstly, HubSpot will do a scan of duplicates on a daily basis. So this happens once a day. Now, when it comes to the logic behind how it determines a duplicate, you can actually select which properties it reviews. So if you head over to this button here, you'll notice that the way, at least for contacts, it searches for duplicates is based on first name, last name, similar email addresses and phone numbers, and any last activity dates. So if you have any other fields inside of the system, potentially you've got another integration with another system plugged into HubSpot, you could also use that custom property as an ID to determine duplicates as well. But effectively, if you look into a duplicate record, so I'm going to review one here, you can review it and then select the master record that you want to keep and then merge all of the data into that record with. So in often cases with a lot of our customers, they would like to keep the work email address as the one, as the primary contact there. And all that really means is if I were to select merge now, any of the details from the second contact record and activities will be merged into one place. So it's not the case of we're losing any data, we're just consolidating it down into one record. Another point to mention with the deduplication tool is you can either do this one by one or you can merge duplicates in bulk. So if you click on the tick box on the top left-hand side, I believe as it stands currently, you can merge up to 50 contacts in bulk at a time. So you do need to go through this on a paging basis, but if I were to bulk select all 11 contacts here, click review, I can then determine what the merge criteria needs to be. So it will give you a number of different options here. So you could choose to merge the contacts based on the most recently engaged. Now, what that tells us is if there's two contact records for the same person, however, the most recently engaged contact is the one that is being used more often, we should use that as the primary record. So if I click most recent engagement, I can choose to just bulk merge them all. So this is a really useful tool, especially for contacts in companies. So when it comes to companies, that the same method will apply. You can select your properties to review and choose to review them and merge them one by one. So I would definitely recommend looking into this on a regular basis. The only point to mention here is for the bulk merging tool, this is an Ops Hub Pro feature. So whilst on lower tiers of HubSpot, you can do the merging one by one, for any bulk merging, you'll need to be on Ops Hub Pro and above. Now, the next tool I wanted to run through is the Data Quality Center inside of HubSpot. So this is just an overall dashboard where you can monitor all of your data in one place. So again, if I head into HubSpot and just walk you through the system here, when you're on the main contacts dashboard, if you click into data quality, this will take you into the bulk of the data quality reports. So the first one to look at here is the breakdown of properties. So it's going to give you an overview of how many properties there are in total inside of the system and how many of which are currently being used and if there are any duplicates inside there. So if you click into view all property insights, a really good aspect about this feature here is the ability to break down all of the properties by potential issues. So the three issues you can see in this drop down is firstly, properties that have been created that have no data in, i.e. they're potentially not being used, and there's an argument to say we should just archive them out of HubSpot. Again, there's also a filter for any that are unused. And then lastly, any properties that have been flagged as duplicates. So we really want to look at consolidating them into one place to make it easier for your filtering when it comes to marketing, and then even down into reporting as well. So just to give you an idea of what you can do when you click into one of the properties with issues. So I've got this one here at the top, which has been flagged as an unused property. So if I click on view details, from this dashboard here, I can then click actions and choose to archive that straight away. So it's quite fundamental just to make sure you're not cluttering your HubSpot portal with loads of unnecessary properties, and the ones that are being used are vital to the business. So again, I would recommend checking this on an ongoing basis. Now, the second report inside this dashboard refers to records. Now, on this report, it's going to break down any potential formatting issues. So if I click into view all here, what this is now going to tell me is any contact records inside the system that potentially have data issues, and HubSpot has some logic behind this, which identifies it for you. So if we look at one of the ones here at the top, we can see HubSpot is identifying that the first and last name may be combined. So as you can see here, the first name of this test record contains first and last name information. So the recommendation here is for that to be split out into two different fields. Now, what we can do here is just accept that change, and HubSpot will automatically apply that data fix for you. And there are also other issues that HubSpot can identify, such as missing or unexpected capitalization. So if you want to keep your names inside of HubSpot nice and concise, you can also fix some of these formatting issues from here. There's also functionality to allow you to automate this over time. So you could choose to set up an automation that capitalizes any fields, keeps all your data nice and consistent on an ongoing basis. Now, if we just head back to the main dashboard now, the last two reports just refer to firstly data sync. So if there are any data sync apps that are connected into HubSpot, so, some common examples of this could be other platforms such as Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics. HubSpot will also identify any sync issues with those integrations, and you can manage them straight from this place as well. And lastly, workflows, so any automations that you've got set up inside of HubSpot that are constantly flagging errors or potentially they're not being used anymore, HubSpot will identify those and tell you what those issues are. So in this case, we've got 9 workflows that need to be reviewed for errors, and I can click view all in here, and it's going to show me all of the workflows that need to be amended. So that was just a bit about the Data Quality Center. As a next step, I'm just going to talk a bit about the app marketplace integration. So personally, I think the HubSpot tools are great for data cleansing, but if you want to take it that one step further, there are a lot of different plug and play integrations on the app marketplace. Now, the first one I wanted to run through is the Insycle data management tool. So if you go into the app marketplace, what Insycle is a plug and play data automation system. So this can be really useful for plugging into your HubSpot to set rules for data cleansing and merging on an ongoing basis. Now, what this looks like once you've got Insycle plugged in is it's slightly more complex in the sense that you can define specific rules for either data that needs to be merged. So you can define these rules inside of Insycle itself. And it really just takes it that one step above the manual deduplication that you can do inside of HubSpot. Now, what I really like about this is you can then generate a CSV report for your merged data before you go ahead and make those changes inside of HubSpot, just to ensure that any bulk changes you're doing are in fact accurate. So there are a lot of different templates in Insycle, which allows you to merge contacts, company records. One of the main benefits about this as well is you can even do data merging for custom objects as well, so that the limits there are somewhat endless. Another nice feature about Insycle here is the ability to import data. So in a lot of cases, if you're coming away from a legacy CRM system, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to format that data before it goes into HubSpot. Now you can upload a CSV into Insycle and it will take care of a lot of that for you and identify any potential formatting issues of your CSV files before they enter HubSpot. And again, within Insycle, any rules that you set up can be triggered to run on hourly, daily, weekly basis, and this will speed up a lot of your data cleanse actions that need to take place. There are also two other apps that I'd recommend looking at in the app marketplace. So in terms of honorable mentions, for email validation tools, there are quite a few that can plug into HubSpot. Now, the first one I'm going to demonstrate on screen now is Clear Out Email Validation. So what this will do is it will plug into your HubSpot portal, and based on any contact data you've got in the system, it can test those emails to ensure they're still valid. And really the main purpose of using an email validation plugin to HubSpot is the fact that it will help you identify any emails that are potentially hard bounce before you're sending emails to them, and therefore making sure your email sending reputation is protected. In addition to that, there is another great tool on the marketplace. In fact, there are quite a few for data enrichment. So within HubSpot, there is some level of data enrichment that you can do inside of the system. HubSpot have, especially for companies, what they call HubSpot Insights. So using the domain name of the company, it will populate data to do with number of employees, annual revenue about the company. And this is all scraped from the HubSpot database online. But if you want to take it that one step further, there are also data enrichment plugins that you can use, such as ZoomInfo. Now, what ZoomInfo will do is populate your company data with B2B information as well. So I think we've just about covered the initial demonstrations there. What I'd like to run through next are some specific data cleansing scenarios inside of HubSpot that we come across on a common basis. So the three main areas to consider here are before a migration, after a migration, and then a hybrid approach of using both. So really with that first point there, when considering doing data cleansing before a migration, some of the real world scenarios there is you could be a customer that is migrating away from another CRM system and coming onto HubSpot. Now, some of the issues that we do come across here is firstly, the data could belong to multiple sources. So you may have an old CRM system, could also have an email sending platform. So the data is spread out in many different places. Now, what's key about this is we really want to determine what is the source of truth of your data before we import it into the system. Now, this process could involve doing a number of different imports in a timely fashion, one after the other, just to ensure it's all consolidated into HubSpot. In often cases as well, you could experience some legacy system issues. So when you're exporting the data out of the system, depending on the format, it might not always be correct for HubSpot. And this is where you really need to prepare those import files to make sure any data format issues are dealt with within the CSVs and any data inconsistencies are ruled out before you're importing it straight into HubSpot. Now, one of the cons for this approach is it can take a lot of time because it can be done using Excel formulas. but more often than not, it will require a lot of work inside of Excel or Google Sheets. But I would say one of the benefits of doing the data cleanse before migration is the fact that it just prevents messy data from entering HubSpot in the first place. Now, on the other hand, you could be an existing customer of HubSpot, and you've been using the system for some time already. Now, what's quite common here is after a migration, especially after you've been using the system for months on end, that you could experience a lot of duplicates inside of HubSpot. And this is where that duplicate management tool will come in really handy, because you can, instead of losing data, merge the data into one place. Another common consideration for existing customers or HubSpot, especially after a migration, is the fact that you may have been sending emails from the system. Now, in often cases, you'll be over time experiencing a lot of unsubscribes and hard bounces. Now, we need to find a way of dealing with that inside of HubSpot. So it's always worth checking for any hard bounces or unsubscribes, making sure they're either set as non-marketing contacts or archived out of the system completely. I would say one of the main benefits for doing the data cleanse after the migration is you can leverage all of the HubSpot tools within the system that we've gone through today, and it keeps it all in one place. And then again, you can create these standardized processes and automations, such as what Barbara has walked through with the formatting of data, to ensure all of your data cleansing is automated on an ongoing basis. But what I would say for the third approach is the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So the most reliable way to do your data cleansing, at least for data accuracy, is to consider both options, because you're getting the best of both worlds. So when you're doing the data cleanse, it's also worth considering how much volume of the data there is that needs to be cleaned. And again, some aspects of the data cleansing are easier to do before the migration, such as the formatting issues, cleaning up the capitalization within the Google Sheets. However, there's definitely aspects of data cleaning that is optimal to do after, when the data is inside the system, such as managing duplicates, because you've got the HubSpot tools there to lean on. But overall, I would say for the hybrid approach, it's definitely more flexible. It will save you time and resources. But one of the key aspects here is the ongoing maintenance of your data as well. And this is where we can go on to our recommended checklist. So when it comes to creating your own data cleansing checklist, we've just put together some comprehensive steps here. Now, the first point refers to data governance. So what you'll want to do is appoint someone in your organization that has the responsibility of looking after the data and cleansing it. And this could be a CRM administrator. What's key about this is you also want to define the roles for managing the data within the organization. So inside of HubSpot, especially if you've got a number of different teams working in one place, you really want to lock down the permissions that they have. Because in often cases, if everyone has permissions to create properties, edit data, we can quite quickly find that the system becomes unwieldy. And this is where these large data cleanse projects need to take place. So if you can limit down those permissions to select few users within HubSpot, it really gives you a more controlled environment. And then the next point is to do with data validation and property rules. So again, it's always worth doing a bit of an audit and archiving any of those inactive properties inside of the system. So using some of the tools we've gone through there from the data control center. When you're creating new properties, especially from the start, you want to enforce some validation rules there. Quite a common example we see is on a contact record, let's say the country field. In often cases, the country can be left as a free text box. Now, as best practice, you probably want to have a drop down there, because people can enter any data they want into a free text box. And before you know it, people are entering different variations of countries. So when it comes to the reporting and filtering in your marketing campaigns, it becomes really difficult. So where you can, I would definitely advise setting validation rules for your properties. And then just on to the next point, we've got the deduplication. So regularly scanning for duplicate records within the system. Again, you can lean on the HubSpot deduplication tools there. It scans once a day, but I would always advise checking at least once a week or once a month at least. The next point is to do with integrations. So if you do have any integrations that are plugged into HubSpot, just monitoring that to ensure there aren't any data sync issues. And then for the final points here, we've just mentioned about data standardization. So within HubSpot, we can create workflows to format data automatically on an ongoing basis. Now that could include trimming data, capitalizing data, or rounding numbers to a specific place. There's also a part here about the naming conventions. So whilst the data itself is important to be kept clean, you'd also want to enforce some standard naming conventions and folders for other assets inside of HubSpot. This could be across your landing pages, emails, workflows. If you have a nice and clean naming convention and folder structure, it makes it a lot easier to manage moving forward. And then again, we've got the piece here about inactive data to clean up. So on an ongoing basis, just making sure you've got some policy there to automate unsubscribes and hard bounces and potentially unengaged contacts from the system, because you can always set them as a non-marketing contact to avoid damaging your email send reputation there. And then the final point is just ongoing improvement. So the biggest point to mention today is data cleansing isn't a one and done approach. It needs to be dealt with on an ongoing basis. So I would advise setting up a process internally whereby you can manage your data at key milestones of the year. Because once you've done a cleanse, it can only take so long for it to get messy again. Okay, so as a part of this webinar today, we're offering a free HubSpot data audit. So everyone that has signed up to this webinar today will receive a registration link for this free audit after the webinar is finished. So feel free to opt into that. And just before we finish up today, I'd like to go through any questions that people have. So I think we've got one here in the chat. Barbara, the question was, how can we merge duplicate companies if we have the Salesforce integration turned on? I have come across this issue before.
I have to. It's like normally it depends on when you define like what is the source data. If you want to define that HubSpot is like the source of truth, then you are able to use the deduplication tool that Tommy showed you also on the company level, and where it picks the domain as the identification, and then you can be able to merge them there. But it depends on like if you want to say, okay, the source of truth is the Salesforce data. So when it is the Salesforce data, the source of truth, and HubSpot like already identifies it, you have the option to say, okay, I'm still merging my companies in HubSpot, because then what we do is like we add the Salesforce, like the two, if there's like two Salesforce as well, like two Salesforce companies as well recorded, then we merge this into one record. So it's always up to you on like how you want to manage it well, in combination with Salesforce. And so always check with your sales team as well to see, okay, do you want to be able to get, like, do they have actually access to the data? Do you want them to be able to merge them, like to merge them in HubSpot, or do you prefer just like flagging that information and be able to send it then to Salesforce and then do some kind of automation there?
Yeah, thanks for that, Barbara.
Yeah.
I have come across this before as well, whereby if Salesforce is plugged into HubSpot, it won't allow you to merge duplicates within the duplicate management tool. Now, one way we have been able to get around that is with using like a third-party plugin such as Insycle, because you can override that and define the rules from Insycle itself to merge the records in HubSpot. So that could be one approach. The other approach is potentially temporarily turning off the integration with Salesforce and then doing the cleanse before turning it back on. We've had another question there just about the webinar recording. So yes, we will be sharing the webinar recording with everyone that has attended today. So feel free to check back on that. You should receive an email once this is all processed as well. So I think that brings us to the end of the session today. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. Just a last slide here for anyone else that wants to get in contact with us at Boom. Just some contact information here. So feel free to email adam@bbdboom.com. We also have a number of different webinars that we've hosted in the past and some scheduled in for the future. So feel free to go onto our website or log into our customer portal there to view any of our historic webinars. But otherwise, thank you, Barbara, for joining in today. And I hope you have a good weekend. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and have a great Friday.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.